Wanted to talk about today the brutal reality of cell cameras. Now, what's interesting about cell cameras, they're an incredible tool. And I've heard of people like, well, I'm just not going to use cell cameras anymore. I don't like, well, unfortunately, you're going to become less of a hunter because you're not using them. You can actually be a better hunter by using cell cameras. They help you learn so much. They're an incredible tool. I'll talk about, some of the things they help you learn, but first right there is they gauge your mistakes. And I'll talk about, now, Jen and I went in hunting. Jen is our lovely video assistant this morning. So
Hello.
Jen, that was still end of October when we went in on Junior at the Blade Water Hole and I messed up your hunt.
Yes. End of
So,
October.
so Junior from late summer in through that time, he had been using a particular water hole, the Blade Water Hole. We have a redneck there, and he'd used it often. I'd say every 3 or 4 days, 5 days, he was there. If 5, 6 days went by, then you wondered where he was at. And it could be at night, it could be during the day. We had daylight photos of him. We went in there. He'd been there once in the last 3 days. Good chance you see him. We go in there hoping to see him. That's the buck Jen wanted to shoot. And she's sitting where she can't see where they come in from, and I'm sitting over here filming. And I have DJI camera set up to get the shot and everything, and then I have my cell phone that I'm going to film with. Well, I'm sitting down low in a camping chair in the redneck, and it goes down into the shot. And sure enough, doe's coming in. And I pull up the binoculars, pretty sure it's Junior, put him down. I want to tell her to draw back, shoot, whatever, and get ready. And I told her, she knew he was coming in. I said, I think it's Junior. I wanted to take one more peek. So raise my binoculars above, look out the window. He's 30 yards, he looks right at me. And just like a mature buck, he's a 6-year-old, he didn't run. He just turned and went away. Couldn't tell if he went because he was looking for the doe, but I had the sinking feeling that he looked right at me. He saw me move. And you think, well, is he going to be back in 2, 3 weeks on that water hole? Is he going to be back in a month? Is he going to be back in a week? Well, it's pretty cool because he went out to a food plot, and we watched him till dark for the last 20 minutes of dark at like 80 yards. And he came in probably 45 minutes after we left the stand. He was in at the water hole. You could tell he sniffed around a little bit. And I think he was in twice over about a 40-minute period. And then how many times, Jen, have we seen him since on that water hole?
0.
0 times. It is now December 3rd. And this happened, I don't know, let's just throw out a number, say it was October 27th.
I was going to say the 25th.
Yeah. And he has not been back since to somewhere he had been for 2 months. Well, his whole life. But, for months he had been there fairly regularly, and then he hasn't been back.
When do you think a buck like that would come back? Is that like a next season thing?
I mean, I was surprised he hasn't come back. I would have bet 2 to 3 weeks. But he's 6. So he doesn't like cameras. We already know that. He doesn't like anything. It seems like he doesn't put up with anything. He's just a spooky buck, more than the average 5, 6-year-old, I would say.
He's a loner.
Yeah, he's always by himself. We saw him again this morning. He was by himself. He's just, the only time he's not by himself is when he's with a doe. And we've seen that several times. Other than that, he's not traveling with other bucks. He's a loner. He doesn't travel with the normal buck, group that's, a little brat pack that's of 3, maybe a 4-year-old in there. He doesn't travel with them, and they're right in the same area. If they're here, he's over here. If they're here, he's there 2 hours later. Bottom line is brutal reality, cell cameras. I blew it, and he didn't come back, and he still isn't back. When you go into a hunting area, we overestimate our skills as a hunter and our actual impact on the area. Put a cell camera by your stands. Almost all of our stand locations have a cell cam. And when we go use a stand location, if we're not careful, if we spook deer, we just write it off. Because if we go into an area that's really remote and we spook deer, in or out, then you can count on not hunting it for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. It boogers up the whole area, and any does that are using that, any young bucks that are using it aren't there. Not much of a welcome mat for a mature buck when he comes in, even if he didn't know about the impact. I think he goes into an area and how come there's not deer here? How come there's not sign here, scent here, sign, rubs, scrapes? How come they're not here? He just knows something's wrong, and some light bulbs go off in his head. When we see bucks here, there, how far they travel, it gives you a really good glimpse of deer behavior that cameras would give you, SD card cameras would give you, but a lot of times people are just saying, I don't want to use cameras at all. But bottom line is, it's amazing how far some bucks move and how little other bucks move. There's no generalization. You can't say that bucks have a 3-mile home range during the daylight. One might have a mile home range. One might have a 100-yard home range during the daylight for the majority of the season. It's amazing, just like Junior, that he's really old and he doesn't travel with other deer. You see the younger deer travel with other deer. You learn about buck behavior and you get glimpses into their world that you would have never known. Without cell cameras, you can't be as good of a hunter as you can by using cell cameras and getting a glimpse of. This isn't a promotion for buying cell cameras. This is just the brutal reality of it. So on one thing, it helps you be a better hunter, gauge your mistake. Then you get down to scientific organizations aren't really good hunting organizations. What I mean by that, they're not full of the really good hunters that give great hunting advice. There's some hunters I like to follow in the whitetail world. Ben Rising, for example, I'll give a shout out to him. He's one of the best whitetail hunters on the planet, bar none. He's got it done on public land, private land. If you only get it done on private land, not the best hunter. If you only get it done on public land, not the best hunter. Public and private land are two different worlds apart. You have to hunt the same way. You can't spook deer. You got to get in and out without spooking deer. You have to learn how to identify food sources, bedding areas, know when to hunt in a morning stand, when to get in an evening stand, afternoon, which way to go in and out. There's a lot you have to know that are similar, but totally different games. Private land, for example, we work probably 20 times more than someone on public land. Public land, you're scouting, get to know the area. We learn by aerial photos when we're public land hunting, but we're not putting in work that will equal 1,000 hours per year on public land. Think about if you're a public land hunter and you're taking 3-4 weekends to scout before your hunt and you have a full Saturday to do so. That's probably putting you in the top 5% of all public land hunters. At the same time, if you only hunt private land, you don't understand the big woods concept of public land and the pressure of public land, the lack of food sources, food plots. There's a lot of food plot hunters out there. They only hunt food plots, and that's how they kill their deer. Bottom line is, I'm not trying to shame any of these other hunters. It's just that I want you guys to be great hunters, and what you end up finding is like some of these scientific organizations, they're not full of these high quality hunters, and they'll give advice something like census, August, September. Put corn out and that'll tell you what your deer herd is. No, it's a pivot point. If you're managing small properties, your property should get better as the season progresses. So that pivot point in August, September is meaningless. Because if you're doing a bad job on your private land, the deer numbers will go down and the number of bucks you have. So that's that pivot point where it either goes up or down. So a terrible time for census. Great time for a census on big scientifically run, giant, well-managed 10,000 acre ranches, 5,000 acre ranches where you have a captive deer herd. Then you're comparing apples to apples, because you're not comparing what happens on a 40 acres to a neighbor's 40 acres to a neighbor's 40 acre. But part of this is, I heard a statement at one time over the last couple of years that you should know, 50% of the bucks that are on your lane you don't know, you don't recognize. That's because you're not managing your property well. If you have a well-designed property where you're not spooking deer, and you know that deer are bedding here and they're feeding here because you're a good hunter, then if you put a cell camera there, you're going to find out every deer that's in that entire movement. If you have unpressured food sources, it'll start out like a web. You'll have a bedding area over here, a bedding area over here, a bedding area over here. Then you have that hub of that food source in the middle. If you don't spook that out, all those bedding areas are in play. So if you have camera, meaning one in each bedding area or on the way there or near, and then one cell cameras, and then one down by the food source, you get about a 95% picture of every buck that's using that entire area, probably within a mile of that movement, not just the ones that are contained in that movement. I'm talking about ones that don't even live on the property. They live 3/4 of a mile to a mile away. That's going to tell you those bucks too. So the more refined your property is, the greater your percentage of buck ID, and you do that with cell cameras. And that's part of the brutal reality. Because if you just go to a property, and I'll say public land, I remember we set out 4 cameras in Ohio, and they're all about 3/4 of a mile apart, and we got good bucks at each one. But did we get a high percentage of the bucks in the area? Absolutely not. It was too random. We're not hunting well-established food sources that last for the entire season and build as the season progresses and don't get pressured. Completely different picture. And so the more refined and less random your property is, deer are bedding here, feeding here, you give them that depth, you give them enough depth for bucks to actually hold on your property, or you take advantage of your neighbor's depth on the way to your land, to your food sources, well into your land, then you're going to get a high percentage of those deer with those cell cameras. And not only can you learn about buck behavior better, learn about buck patterns better, gauge your mistakes, really be harsh. Because again, we think we're better hunters than we are, all of us. And you'll look at, well, I went into this area and it's just, that area's kind of cooled off. Well, it's cooled off because you hunted at one time and you spooked some deer. Look at the impact of Junior on that water hole. And I knew it when I saw it. I felt sick. Ask Jen. I mean, it wasn't just about, I blew the opportunity for her. That made me really sick. It made me sick that I blew the opportunity for that area. It's like a giant hole in his movement area that he won't go into. So cell cameras are that brutal reality check that we can all have. And we can see how our property efforts are doing. We can grade our efforts. We can check out that pivot point. We have a lot of deer in August, September. We don't have a lot going through October, November, December. We can look at instantaneous timing. Right now, we have cameras in Wisconsin at our new lease. We're just checking it out. I don't even know if we'll get out there this year. And we have our cameras here. Dylan has cameras on several properties in Wisconsin. So between the 7 or 8 properties we have, you get to gauge weather and the impact of weather. It's crazy how deer aren't moving here. Well, they're not moving over there either. They're not moving over there. Pretty harsh reality check of weather. You don't think weather influences movement? Get a bunch of cell cameras, put them on properties that are well managed and see what happens. They'll tell you when it's foggy, dense fog, you don't see a lot of deer movement. When it's heavy rain or rain, don't see a lot of movement. I'm not saying deer don't move during those times or deer don't move during a blizzard. The odds are really, really low. So you learn how to stack the deck severely in your area by using the weather. High winds suppress deer movement. Doesn't mean you can't shoot something. The deer are always out there. It just means you have a very small chance. And you learn that with the brutal reality of cell cameras. And when it comes down to it, this is what we do. We design your property. And I'm just going to throw this in there. We don't talk about it a lot, but I think with shorts this year, I'll probably put out 350 videos. For the entire year. We'll talk about this maybe in 10 videos. But we design whitetail properties, almost 300 as a group. Jesse schedules for all of us. We have Joe and Kevin who travel around the country. Dylan sometimes does. Joe's Michigan-based. Kevin's over in Ohio, Pennsylvania. I go to Michigan, Ohio, in our area over here. Those are my 3 main areas. I've worked in 26 states, and I guess I'm getting old and want to stay home with the kids and Jen. I like the happy home life, and I don't travel as much. I go to my certain spots that are comfortable to me, certain restaurants, certain hotels, and that's where I stay. And Joe and Kevin travel a lot more, fly. Wes is in the Minnesota area, Wisconsin area, and Dylan's primarily in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, northern Illinois, northern Iowa. He stays pretty close to home too. And he's got his little baby girl too, so that might keep him tied to home a little bit more.
Please put a picture of her in here.
But Dylan's a dad, and he's always been a great uncle to Jackson, so we were so excited for Dylan to be a dad. It's pretty cool. But that's what we do, and I'm booked out. I might have 1, I might have 2 openings. They might already be full. because I'm going to 6 or 7 clients every month, and I think I'm full all the way through the end of June. I think June is the next time we're scheduling for, end of June. So December, January, February, March, April, May, taken care of. And so, and the rest of the guys are filling up fast too. They all fill up fast. So I'll leave the details for that down below. And if you don't want to hire one of us because it costs a lot of money, we have the How to Design Your Whitetail Parcel web class. And I'll leave the details for that and this in the description below. But I want you to be able to have 40 acres, put out 5 cell cameras, and have that brutal reality check. It's not going to happen if it's random. If you have random movements, if you're spooking a lot of deer, we want to help you with that. If you have 200 acres, we want you to have 11, 12 cell cameras and know exactly what bucks are coming on your land, when they're there, the impact of your hunting, and I want you to learn more about hunting, and we'll help you with that, design your property. That's what we do. So appreciate listening, and consider the brutal reality of cell phones or cell cameras, how they can help you, how they improve you as a hunter. They can't help but improve you as a hunter, and maybe you can add them to your arsenal this year if you haven't already done so.